At exactly 7:47 p.m. on Valentine's Day, 2026, the lights went out, not just in one city, across the entire East Coast, Toronto to Boston. And in those first moments of darkness, some people saw things, impossible things. Kemi saw her grandmother, who was 300 miles away. Tobias saw his grandmother on a crashing plane. Both of them heard the same message: go home. This is the story of two people who'd spent 14 months trying to forget each other. And the night, the universe forced them back together. Kemi Adebayo was on her couch when it happened. 28 years old, single on Valentine's Day, and trying not to care about it. Netflix froze mid-scene. The lamp beside her blinked once and died. The refrigerator's hum stopped. For a second, she thought it was just her building. Then, she looked outside. The skyline was gone. No streetlights, no headlights, no glow from other windows, just darkness. Her phone, which had been at 80%, wouldn't turn on. She pressed the power button. Nothing. The apartment felt wrong. Too quiet. Not peaceful. Wrong. She walked to the window. Above the city, the sky looked unfamiliar, clear, crowded with stars. Toronto was never this dark. Behind her, a floorboard creaked. She turned. An old woman stood in the middle of her living room, traditional Yoruba attire, wrapper brushing the floor. The fabric shimmered faintly, as if it carried its own light. Kemi's throat went dry. Iya Agba. But her grandmother was in Boston, 300 miles away. The woman looked at her with absolute certainty. Go home. South, where your heart is waiting. My grandmother is in Boston, Kemi whispered. The woman nodded once. Then go. The room flickered. Kemi was alone. She stood there for a long time. Something pulled at her chest. An urgency she couldn't explain. Then she grabbed her keys. Tobias Okafor was 30, data analyst, on a late flight from Chicago to Boston. The plane was halfway there when everything went dark. Cabin lights died. Screens went black. The engine sound changed. Someone gasped. Then several voices at once. Tobias gripped the armrest. He didn't think about work. He didn't think about the presentation he'd prepared. He thought about Kemi. The last time he'd seen her in person, the way she'd handed him his apartment key without looking at him. I can't do this, she'd said. Not angry, just tired. The plane dipped. An oxygen mask dropped in front of him. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, his grandmother was standing in the aisle. Mama Ego, the small crease between her brows. Do not fire what is coming, she said. She smiled at him. The same smile she'd given him when he was 12 and terrified at his parents' funeral. The smile that said, you are stronger than you think. Then she was gone. Someone's hand brushed past him, reaching for a mask. He grabbed his own, breathed. When the wheels hit the runway, hard enough to jolt everyone forward, relief flooded through him. But he didn't wait for his bag, didn't wait for anything. He needed to get to Roxbury, to his grandmother's house. He didn't question how he knew that. He just moved. Kemi's car was old, a 2019 Honda Civic with manual locks and windows you cranked by hand. The highway was chaos. New cars sat dead on the shoulder. Teslas, BMWs. Anything with complex computer systems just stopped. But Kemi's simple old car kept running. Toronto to Boston usually took 6 hours. She made it in 5. No GPS. She just drove, following instinct, following that pull in her chest. The whole time she knew Tobias would be there, and she didn't know if she wanted to scream at him or kiss him. When Kemi pulled onto the street in Roxbury, the city was still dark. No traffic lights, no porch lamps, just the outline of row houses against the sky. She almost missed the figure sitting on the front steps. He was leaning forward, elbows on his knees. Even in the dark, she knew him. The way he sat, the slope of his shoulders. Tobias. He stood so fast he nearly lost his balance. Kemi. They stared at each other like one might disappear. He asked what she was doing there. She told him about her grandmother appearing in her Toronto apartment, about the impossible vision that sent her driving south through the darkness. He went very still. On the plane, he said quietly, I saw mine too. Neither of them laughed. They stood 3 feet apart, close enough to touch, far enough not to. He looked thinner, dark circles under his eyes. Before he could stop himself, he said, she looked tired. You look worse. She shot back. Despite everything, that almost made her smile. The air between them felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath. The front door clicked behind them. Iya Agba stood there, wrapped in a shawl. She looked at them both, not surprised, just knowing. You made it, she said simply. Kemi started to ask what was happening. The power out everywhere. Her phone dead, that vision. But her grandmother just stepped aside. Come inside, both of you. The power was still out, but candles burned on every surface. Dozens of them, white candles everywhere. The house glowed with warm, flickering light. Mama Ego appeared from the hallway, carrying a tray of food. Jollof rice, fried plantain, stewed chicken. Despite everything, the blackout, the impossible visions, the confusion, Kemi's stomach growled. They ate in the kitchen. The grandmothers moved around them seamlessly, like they'd been doing this for years. When Tobias asked how long they'd known each other, Mama Ego just smiled. Long enough, she said, which wasn't an answer at all. After they ate, Iya Agba folded her hands. You have 12 hours, she said, until sunrise. You cannot leave until then. Kemi asked what she meant. Her grandmother's answer was simple. The doors will not open for you. The windows will not open. You are here, together, until dawn. Both grandmothers stood. Mama Ego gathered the tray. Tobias tried to stop them, but they were already climbing the stairs. Their footsteps creaked on the old wood. 2 doors closed softly upstairs. Kemi and Tobias sat alone. The candles flickered. Outside, the city was silent. Kemi stood and walked into the living room. She needed space, air, something that wasn't the kitchen table and the weight of Tobias's presence. The living room felt wrong. Was that wall always there? She asked. Tobias followed her in. The far wall seemed farther away than it should be. The room felt deeper, longer. He said it was just dark. Everything feels different in the dark. No, Kemi said. She walked to the fireplace, counted her steps. 10. Last time she was here, Christmas 2 years ago, it had been 6. Something's wrong with this house. She walked to the back window, looked out. The backyard was different, larger. Trees she didn't remember. A garden that shouldn't exist in February. Tobias, he came to stand beside her, went quiet. That's not possible, he said. I know. They tried the doors, front, back, windows. Nothing would open. Your grandmother wasn't kidding, Tobias said. Kemi paced the impossible hallway. Their grandmothers had used some kind of magic. She didn't have another word for it. Trapped them here, together, on Valentine's Day, of all nights. This is insane, she said. Tobias could only nod, because what else could he say? He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, hair disheveled. She'd seen that look before when they were together, when he pushed himself too hard and wouldn't admit it. You've lost weight, she said. You sound like my grandmother. Maybe she's right. He almost smiled. And for the first time in 14 months, Kemi didn't want to run. She just didn't know what to do instead. They sat in the living room, across from each other. Silence worse than anger. You tried to call, she said finally. 6 times. I know. Why didn't you answer? Because if I heard your voice, I would have forgiven you. That landed. I didn't want to forgive you, she continued. Not that easily. Tobias leaned back in the chair. I should have asked you. About Seattle. I know that. You didn't even hesitate. I found out on LinkedIn, Tobias. You posted about your new position before you told me you were leaving. He closed his eyes. She was right. I was scared you'd say no, he said quietly. Scared you'd make me choose. And I didn't know what I'd pick. So, I picked first. She blinked. That's worse. I know. You made it look like I didn't matter. Like I was optional. You weren't optional. But I was negotiable. He had no answer. Outside, something thudded in the distance. Would you have moved? He asked, suddenly. To Seattle? Yes. She opened her mouth, closed it. I don't know, she admitted. Exactly. That's not the same thing. Maybe not, but you weren't ready either. The truth of it sat between them. She had loved him, fully, but safely, from a distance she could control. You left before I could, she said. He frowned, asked what she meant. She told him. About her parents staying married for 20 years out of habit, not love. About the ugly divorce. About her promise to herself, if something was going to fall apart, better sooner. So you ended it before it could fall apart naturally, he said. I thought you already had. Silence. Then he said, I quit Seattle. Her head snapped up. When? 3 months ago. Why? He let out a breath. Told her about coming home to an apartment that felt like a storage unit. About being good at the job but hating his life. About how every time something good happened, he wanted to tell her first. Her eyes softened despite herself. I dated, he added. It didn't work. I kept comparing them to you. That made her smile, just a little. I've been applying to jobs in Boston, she said. He went very still. How long? November. He stared at her, asked why. She looked down at her hands, told him she'd convinced herself it was career growth. But really, she just didn't want him to become a story she told in past tense. Something shifted in the room. Not visibly, just in the air. You could have called, he said. So could you. I did. I know. Their eyes locked. The power was still out across the city. No distractions, no screens, no noise. Just the two of them and everything they'd avoided saying. I'm still angry, she admitted. I know. And I still love you. That one surprised them both. He stood slowly. So do I, he said. The candles flickered. The room filled with blue light. Soft, pulsing, coming from everywhere and nowhere. Tobias, I see it too. The light formed shapes, figures, memories. They saw themselves, but not now. Before. There was Kemi and Tobias at that conference in Austin. The moment they met, she'd called out a sexist speaker during Q&A. Tobias had started a standing ovation. Their eyes met across the room. The memory shifted. First dates. Charles River in Boston. They talked for 6 hours. Missed dinner. Didn't care. At the end of the night, Tobias had walked her to a car. Neither wanted to leave. I have to drive back to Toronto, she'd said. I know. This was really nice. Yeah. He'd kissed her then. Soft. Tentative. and she'd kissed back like she was drowning and he was air. Another shift. 4 months in. Video calls every night. Falling asleep with phones propped on pillows. "I miss you," she'd said one morning, her voice sleepy. "Miss you too." The way he'd smiled at her through the screen, like she was the best thing he'd ever seen. Then the hot parts, missed calls, cancelled visits, the slow creep of distance, and finally, that LinkedIn notification. The memory showed Kemi's face, the exact moment her heart broke. Then Tobias, alone in his Seattle apartment 3 months later, successful, miserable, scrolling through old photos of them. The vision faded, the candles relit. They stood there, crying, seeing clearly for the first time what they'd lost. "I didn't know," Tobias whispered. "I didn't know it looked like that from your side. You never asked." For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Kemi stepped forward first. One step, two, until she was close enough to see the gold flecks in his brown eyes, the small scar on his chin from when he fell off his bike as a kid. She reached up, touched his face. He leaned into her hand like he'd been waiting for permission. Then he kissed her, soft at first, tentative, like they were both afraid of breaking something fragile. But then she kissed him back, and it deepened, steady, sure, like muscle memory. When they pulled apart, her forehead rested against his. "This could still fail," she whispered. "Yes. We could hurt each other again. Yes. But I don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering what would have happened if I just tried harder." Her breath shook. "Say it clearly." He didn't hesitate this time. "I choose you." Not over his career, not over fear, just her. She closed her eyes. "I choose you too." Upstairs, a floorboard creaked. Or maybe it didn't. Hours passed. The blackout stretched. Outside, the city whispered in shadows. Inside, the two of them found comfort in quiet. They moved to the couch, sat close, legs touching. "Tell me everything," he said. "The real stuff." She told him about her projects. The coffee shop with bad coffee but great pastries. How Toronto had started to feel small. He told her about quitting Seattle, living with his grandmother, the freedom of freelancing. They talked for hours, no performance, just honesty. Eventually, exhaustion caught up with her. "I'm tired," she admitted. He suggested the bedroom upstairs, but she shook her head. "Can we just stay here? I don't want to be alone." He pulled a blanket over them. She rested her head on his chest, his arm around her shoulders. It felt right. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, "for all of it, for not asking, for making you feel like you weren't my first choice. I'm sorry too, for shutting you out, for being too scared to try. We were both scared. We still are. But we're trying anyway." She smiled against his chest. They leaned close again. A second kiss, lighter, playful, unhurried, like a promise that some things, once found, are never lost again. Outside, the city waited. But inside, for now, the world could stay dark. Kemi woke to cooking smells. Tobias stirred beside her. Morning. They looked toward the window. Dawn. Pink and orange on the horizon. In the kitchen, both grandmothers were cooking. "The power?" Tobias asked. Mama Eagle pointed to the microwave. The clock was blinking. 12:00. 12:00. Power returning. Kemi asked what happened last night. The blackout. The visions. This house. Iya Agba set down her spatula. "Did you get what you came for?" Kemi looked at Tobias. "Yes." "Then the how does not matter." They ate breakfast together, all four of them. As the sun rose higher, the house slowly returned to normal. The walls settled back into their proper places. The impossible garden shrank back to a regular alley. By the time they finished eating, it was just two row houses with a shared wall. Mama Eagle asked if Tobias would stay. "A few days," he said. She turned to Kemi. "I have to drive back to Toronto," Kemi said. Then she looked at Tobias. "But I'll come back. We'll figure it out," he said. They walked outside together. The morning was cold, but clear. The city was waking up. Lights coming on. Cars starting. Life resuming. Kemi stood by her car, keys in hand, not quite ready to leave. "This won't be easy," she said. "I know, long distance again for a while. We'll have to actually talk, real conversations." "We can do it. We're smarter now," she laughed. "I don't know about that." He pulled her close, kissed her, gentle, promising. "Drive safe." "I will." She got in the car, started the engine. Everything worked. The blackout was truly over. Before she pulled away, Tobias leaned down to the window. "Hey," he said. "Hey, happy Valentine's Day." She smiled. "Happy Valentine's Day." 3 months later, Kemi moved to Boston. Not just for Tobias, for the job she'd earned, but also for him. A little bit. They got an apartment together in Jamaica Plain. The blackout had made international news for weeks. No one could explain it. The visions, the impossible moments. Eventually, the world moved on. But Kemi and Tobias didn't forget. On Valentine's Day, 2027, they went back to Roxbury, found their grandmothers on the porch, drinking tea. "We have news," Kemi said, holding up her hand. A simple ring. "We're engaged." Mama Eagle smiled. "About time. You don't sound surprised." "Should we be? We knew before you did." Later, Kemi pulled her grandmother aside. "That night, the blackout. You were there, in my apartment in Toronto." Iya Agba smiled. "Maybe you saw what you needed to see." "That's not an answer." "No, it is not." She hooked her close, whispered, "Some gifts we do not question. We simply say thank you." That night, in their apartment, Tobias was making dinner. Kemi was working at the kitchen table, laptop open, sketches scattered around her. She looked up, watched him move around the kitchen, the ease of it, the way he knew where everything was, the way the space had become theirs. "Hey," she said. He looked over. "Hey, come here for a second." He turned down the heat on the stove, came over. She stood up, wrapped her arms around him. "What's this for?" he asked. "Nothing. Everything." She kissed him. Soft, sweet. "Just wanted to." He smiled against her lips. "We should do that more often." "What? Kiss in the kitchen?" "Yeah." "Okay," she said. "But you have to finish cooking first. I'm hungry." He laughed, kissed her once more. "Deal." From the counter, her phone buzzed. A text from her grandmother. "Remember to light a candle tonight. Give thanks." Kemi smiled. She didn't question it. Just pulled a white candle from the drawer, one she'd bought weeks ago for no reason she could explain, and lit it. In the flickering light, the apartment felt warm. Safe. Right. Outside, the city hummed with life. Cars passed. People walked. The world turned. But inside, for Kemi and Tobias, the world was exactly where it needed to be.